Hello everyone, this is Siddharth Mehta, mentor at Career Launcher Bhilai, and I will be taking the CAT 22 Slot 1 VARC section solution. So in this video, I will be discussing each of the passage and each of the verbal question that appeared in the slot 1 of CAT 22 VARC section and giving my solutions to them. So let us begin. So what we will be doing is that I will be showcasing you each of the RC. If you want, you can stop the video and read the RC1. I will suggest you read it once before proceeding and watching my solutions. So this was the passage number 1 in the CLAT 22 exam. Of course, it depends on the slot that you appeared, but let me take this as the first passage. You can stop the video, read it once, and then proceed to watch the solutions and my discussion on the passage. What I will be doing is I will be keeping my video off, right? So, right, you can just stop and read it. Okay. Now, if I have to analyze this passage, what I will be doing is that when I read, what are the key things that I keep in mind? Okay, so in the right side, if you can see, I have written the overall topic, what the passage is all about, what the content of the passage is, and then the brief summary of each of the paragraphs. So there are 3 paragraphs, what each paragraph is talking about. So let us see the first paragraph. Stoicism was founded in 300 BC by the Greek philosopher Zeno and survived into Roman era until AD 300. According to the Stoics, emotions consist of 2 movements. The first movement is the immediate feeling, and the other reactions that occur when stimulus or event occurs. For instance, consider what could have happened if an army general accused Marcus Aurelius of treason in front of other officers. So now this is important that there are 2 movements, and the first is something that happens instantaneously. For instance, line, this is given as an example to explain the first movement, right? Similarly, the second movement is given here. The second movement is what one does next about the emotion. Second movement behaviors occur after thinking and are under one's control. So these are the key features of the second movement. And once again, example is given as an evidence to support what author is trying to say. This is again example. So first paragraph basically talks about 2 movements of emotions as per the stoic. Emotion consists of 2 movements. The first one is the response, immediate response, and the second is one is the more thoughtful response to the emotions, right? So that is what the first paragraph is talking about. Now the second paragraph, if you read it, the second paragraph is about the Stoics believe that to live the good life and be a good person, we need to free ourselves of nearly all desires, such as too much desire for money, power, of sexual gratification. Prior to the second movements, we can consider what is important in life. So now the author is saying that Stoics believe that we need to free ourselves of all desires, too much desire of money, power, or sexual gratification. And before acting, before the second movement, we can consider at what things are important for us in life and behave accordingly. Then he's excuse me. Then he cites the views of Epicureans, and the Epicureans held a similar view, believing that people should enjoy simple pleasure, such as good conversation, friendship, food, and wine, but not be indulgent. Means that there should be limit. They should enjoy, but they should be under limit. That was the view of Epicureans. So this is what second paragraph is about. Third paragraph. In the third paragraph, the author has related a Stoic idea with Buddhism and other religions. So we can say that he has talked about not only Buddhism, but other religions also have a similar kind of view. If it's given here. The Stoics laid the foundation of the 3 monotheistic religion: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. So apart from Buddhism, Stoicism also has influence on these religions. This is what the last paragraph is about. A simple passage, right? So in every passage, that is what you need to do. You break down each of the paragraph into its key idea. That's going to help you to understand what the overall passage is about. So basically, author is talking about Stoicism and what Stoicism stands for and its impact on religion. So that's the basic idea of the passage. The first question: on the basis of the passage, which of the following statements can be regarded as true? So I have to find a statement which is true. A simple, straightforward question. Let me look at the options whether they are straightforward. There were no Stoics in India at the time of Roman civilization. Does the passage even talk about this? During the Roman civilization, there were no Stoics in India. So debatable, not mentioned, cannot be the answer. The Epicureans believed in controlling all emotions. The Epicureans is mentioned here. Epicureans held a similar view, believing that people should enjoy simple pleasure, right? So they were more about enjoying the simple pleasures in life, right? So we cannot say that they believed in controlling all emotion. This all emotion is anyways bit extreme in nature. This is a rotten word, cannot be the answer. The Stoic influence can be seen in multiple religions. This definitely is there in the last paragraph. So looks a good choice. Fourth, the Stoics valorized the pursuit of money power. Valorized means they held it in high esteem, kind of. So that is opposite of what they have said. So right answer is option number three. Very straightforward question. Everyone should have got it right. Next question. Which one of the following statement would be an accurate inference from the example of Marcus Aurelius? So what is being talked about him is in these lines. What could have happened if an army general accused Marcus Aurelius of a treason in front of other officers? So in front of other officers, if he was accused of treason, what would happen? The first movement for Marcus may have been surprise and anger in response to this insult, accompanied perhaps by some involuntary physiological and expressive responses such as face flushing, and movement of the eyebrows. Okay, so this is what he could have done, right? Again, in a second example, also it has been mentioned. Marcus might have included a plot to seek revenge, action signifying deference and appeasement, or perhaps proceeding as he would have proceeded whether or not this event occurred, continuing to lead the Romans in a way that Marcus Aurelius believed best benefited them. So he was leader, right? So first, Marcus Aurelius was humiliated by accusation of treason in front of other officers. No. Author has simply mentioned this as an hypothetical example. For instance, consider what could have happened if he was accused of treason. So what could have happened is a hypothetical situation. One cannot be the answer. Marcus Aurelius was a Stoic whose philosophy survived into Roman era. We don't know whether he was a Stoic or not. He has just been used as an example. We don't know what his philosophy or ideology was. Marcus Aurelius was one of the leaders of the Roman army. This I can say. Let us look at the fourth one also. Marcus Aurelius plotted revenge in quest for his justice. Now, this is again one hypothetical situation which author has given in the second example, that he could have, might have included a plot. We don't know whether he did that. For that matter, it's just an example. It's a hypothesis that author has built. What could have happened? So answer is option number three. Once again, I straight option. Third, through meditation and the right attitude, one allows emotion to happen to oneself. It is impossible to prevent this. So emotions will happen. This is impossible to prevent. But one is advised to observe the emotion without necessarily acting on them. One achieves some distance and decides what has value and what does not have value, right? So what in the context of the passage, which one of the following is not a possible implication of the quoted statement? So quoted statement says that through meditation and the right attitude, you allow emotions to happen to yourself. That is unavoidable. Emotions will come, but through these meditation and right attitude, what you can do is that you can distance yourself from the emotions and decide that what kind of emotions have value for you and what do not have any value for you, right? So here the distance means that detached kind of distance and not the geographical distance. So first one, emotional responses can make it difficult to distinguish valuable experiences from valueless experiences. Don't know, can be the answer, cannot be the answer, because valueless looks a bit extreme. So I can say that I cannot, it is not getting implied, but let me read the other options and such questions. It makes sense to read all the four options. Meditations allow certain out of body experience that permit us to gain the distance necessary to control our emotion. Now, this definitely is something which is not being talked about, because here what the way distance has been used, it is used in the sense of detaching yourself from the emotion. One achieves some distance and decides. So you achieve some distance from the emotion. That is the detachment. But option number two talks about out of body experience. That means geographically you are distanced. So this definitely cannot be implied. Out of one and two is something which definitely is not implied. But let me read three and four also. The observation of emotions in a distant manner corresponds to the second movement referred to the earlier in the passages. This definitely is implied. Earlier in the passage it was mentioned, and detaching yourself was mentioned in the second movement also. So these two things are related. Meditation and the right attitude in this instance implies an initially passive response of all experiences. Right. So initially passive reception of not response, initially passive reception of all experiences. Yes, this is also mentioned because it says that initially you have emotions will come to you. It is impossible. So this is also implied. Out of three, all the four, three definitely is implied. One and four is also implied, but three is the best one if as far as the implication is concerned. One and four to certain extent they are implied. Two definitely is not implied. This is something. This is completely twisted meaning. So right option is option number two. This is completely twisted meaning of what is being talked about. Right. So next question. Which one of the following statement, if false, could be seen as contradicting the facts, arguments in the passage? Now, such questions are difficult to attempt, right? Because it takes time. Why it takes time? Because it talks about two things. Which of the following, if false? So first, I have to make all the statements false, and then after making the false, I have to see which one is contradicting the facts given in the argument. Let me do that. It will take time. In the Stoic view, choosing a reasoned, unemotional response as the first movement is an appropriate response to the emotional situation. In the Stoic view, choosing a reasoned, unemotional response as the first movement is an appropriate response to emotional situation. Right. So let me negate it and say that in the Stoic view, choosing a reasoned and unemotional response as the first movement is not an appropriate response to appropriate first movement to the let me reiterate again. Let me make it false. In the Stoic view, choosing a reasoned unemotional response as the first movement is not an appropriate. This is what I will do. I will put not here, so it will not confuse me also. Is not an appropriate response to emotional situation. Now, if this is there, is it contradicting? No, it is not contradicting. It is in fact in line, because reasoned and unemotional is the response of which one does in the second movement. So this, if I make it false, it is not contradicting. In fact, it is in line with what is being not what is being said. The first movement is immediate one. It is not reasoned, right? It is in the second movement when this happens. So for making it false does not contradict. Second, the Greek philosopher Zeno survived into Roman era until about AD 300. Let me make it false. The Greek philosopher Zeno did not survive. But the first line says Stoicism was founded in 300 BC by Greek philosopher Zeno and survived into Roman era until about AD 300. Okay. So did not survived into Roman era. Yeah. So making it false again doesn't contradict anything given in the passage, right? In fact, passage says that it was founded in 300 BC by him, but the line says that he survived to AD 300. So making it false that he did not survive till AD 300 is right as per the passage. Third one. Despite practicing meditation and cultivating the right attitude, emotions cannot ever be controlled. Let me make it false. Despite practicing meditation and cultivating the right attitude, emotions can ever be controlled. Yeah, this is in line with the passage again, right? If you practice meditation and cultivate right attitude, emotions can be controlled. This is what passage has talked about. So even this is not the answer. Fourth, in the Epicurean view, indulging in simple pleasure is not desirable. Let me make it false. In the Epicurean view, indulging in simple pleasure is desirable. Now, this is the right answer because Epicureans have not said that it is desirable, right? They have said that you can participate in simple pleasure, right? Believing that people should enjoy simple pleasure, they should enjoy it. It's not desirable. So there is a difference between two things. Desirable will be much more closer to in being indulgent, right? So answer is option number 4. So we make it false and see which one of the following after making it false is contradicting the facts or the arguments in the passage. Now these type of questions are a bit difficult. Okay, next passage, this passage. You can stop the video and read it. Now this was a difficult passage. In my cat attempt, I solved it towards the end. I read the first paragraph and I realized that it is difficult, right? So I solved it towards the end of the VRC section. I had the time remaining. Okay. So what the overall passage is about? It is about critical theory of technology. What is the first paragraph? First paragraph defines what critical theory of technology is. So it says that critical theory of technology is a political theory of modernity with a normative dimension. It belongs to tradition. It's a political theory of modernity with a normative dimension. Now, this itself makes it a bit difficult, right? Now, but then what it talks about is that it talks about that critical theory of technology belongs to a tradition. It advances the human it talks about advances in human rights. It says that advances in human rights take place, but in the background institution impose an authoritarian and social order. So what happens in critical theory of technology? In this they talk about human rights. It is the centerpiece about which they talk about, but at the background the institutions, they impose authoritarian social order. Now the second paragraph talks about this trajectory arose because of problems of command over less power. So once again, reiterating what has been talked about in the first paragraph, that the authority and authoritarian social order is imposed, and because they have the power over the people who are less powerful. Masses are always organized in the same fashion. Marx and Marcuse example is given. Very weird kind of passage. If you have understood this much part, you will be able to answer the question. Third para, the simplest, I think, technology as an environment. Technology determines our way of life. Critical theory of technology attempts to build an approach to study this. So the third paragraph talks about that technology is a kind of environment, and technology determines how we live our life. And critical theory of technology attempts to give a approach to how technology determines our way of life. Fourth paragraph, technology is comparable to law and customs. They all shape their inhabitants. This is also easier to understand as compared to the first two paragraphs. The second paragraph was the most difficult to understand. So in the fourth paragraph, he has said that technology can be compared to law and customs. They all shape their inhabitants. Fifth paragraph, again, bit difficult to understand. Fifth, but it talks about the concept of nature as non-identity. The first few lines are easy to understand. The concept of nature as non-identity suggests an alternative. On these terms, nature is what lies at the limit of the history, at the point at which society loses the capacity to imprint its meanings of things and control them effectively. So basically, it talks that nature starts from a point from where people lose the capacity to give meaning to the things or control the things effectively, and that's where nature comes into the play. So a difficult passage, but if you have understood it into the bits and pieces, I'm sure that you can get at least two right. Which one of the following statement best reflects the main argument of the fourth paragraph? So fourth paragraph is this one. We have identified it already. This was it. Technologies comparable to law and custom, they all shape their inhabitants. Let us see. Automobile represent the interest in mobility present in human nature. Not at all. Technological environments privilege certain dimensions of human nature as effectively as law and custom. Good choice. Technology, laws, and customs are comparable but dissimilar phenomena. They are all similar, has been mentioned. Opposite. Three cannot be the answer. Technology, laws, and customs are not unlike each other if considered as institution. Good choice. Now, out of 2 and 4, what should I choose? Now, 2 talks about technological environments privilege certain dimensions of human nature as effectively as law and custom. Now, as effectively as, don't know whether everything is effective or not. The passage only talks about that they are similar, they all shape their inhabitants. Whether they shape them effectively or not, can't say. Fourth is a better choice, more balanced choice. Technology, law, and custom are not unlike each other, means they are similar to each other if considered as an institutions, if considered as something which brings changes, or which controls the human behavior. So fourth is the right answer in this case. Next, which one of the following statement contradicts the arguments of the passage? Marx's understanding of capitalist rationalism of production and Marx's understanding of a project technological rationality share theoretical inclination. Can't say. Can't say. This was a difficult thing to understand. Paradoxically, the capitalist rationalism of production is a mark of so-called socialist system as well. This is mentioned. Marx attributed this trajectory to the capitalist rationalization of production. Today, it marks many institutions besides the factory in every modern political system, including the so-called socialist system. Right? So the capitalist rationalization is a mark of so-called socialist system as well. This is definitely mentioned. So this cannot be the answer. Masses are organized in patterns set by Foucault's prison and Habermas's public sphere. What is being talked about that masses are same everywhere, and these two are used as an example. It's a scrambled option. It's not mentioned in the passage. This definitely is not mentioned. According to option 3, masses are organized in patterns set by Foucault's prison and Habermas's public sphere. Means these two are cause and this is effect. Nothing of that sort is mentioned in the passage. So 3 is definitely not mentioned. This should be the answer. Out of 1 and 3, 3 is a better choice. 1, I don't understand what it is talking about, but 3 definitely I've understood it is not mentioned. 4. The problems of command over a disempowered and de-skilled labor force gave rise to similar patterns of capitalist rationalism of production wherever masses were organized. Yeah, so this is also talked about that wherever masses were organized, this is what happened. So 3 definitely is the answer. 1, I did not get the meaning. 2 and 4 are mentioned. 3, opposite is mentioned. Not even opposite. There is no such relation which is being talked about. So answer should be 3. Which one of the following statement could be inferred as supporting the arguments of the passage? It is not human nature but human culture that is represented by institutions such as law and custom. Okay. The romantic conception of nature referred to by the passage is the one that requires theoretical legitimacy. All right. Technologies form the environmental context and shape the contours of human society. This is one of his key argument. This is the answer. Nature decides the point at which society loses its capacity to control. No, it's not that nature decides. It's not mentioned. Again, this kind of relationship is not mentioned. Okay. The concept of nature is what lies at the limit of history, but it is not mentioned that nature decides it. So this is not there in the passage. 3 is for sure because that's the key argument of paragraph number 3. Right. Second one, the romantic conception of nature referred to by the passage is the one that requires theoretical legitimacy. Something of theoretical legitimacy has been talked about towards the end. We can perhaps admit a less romantic conception in which those dimensions of human nature recognized by society are also granted. So it is talking about something else. It's a scrambled option. Simply few words are picked like romantic and legitimacy, and option has been framed. This is not a coherent option. It is not human nature but human culture that is represented by institutions such as law and custom, not at all mentioned in the passage. This is out of scope. Nothing of this sort is being mentioned. All of the following claims can be inferred from the passage except, so which cannot be inferred from the passage. One, analysis of technologies must engage with their social histories to be able to reveal their implicit and explicit meaning to us. Okay. The critical theory of technology argues that as issues of human rights become more prominent, we lose sight of the ways in which the social order becomes authoritarian. All right. This is definitely mentioned. This is mentioned in the first paragraph. We have found it in our summary. So two is definitely mentioned. One, I have to read the passage again. Three, the significance of parental authority to children's safety does not therefore imply that parental authority is a permanent aspect of human nature. I have to read it, don't know. Technologies seek to privilege certain dimension of human nature at a high cost to lived nature. This was not mentioned at a high cost to lived nation. It's something related to cost was mentioned. It is mentioned, but not in this particular fashion, right? So what is talked about perhaps is here each of who live under a sway, laws, customs. Yeah, so implicit one is mentioned here. So one cannot be the answer. This is also mentioned. The significance of parental authority is mentioned here. This is not mentioned that it is at a high cost to the lived nature. It comes at a cost. That part is mentioned, but not with respect to the high cost. That is not mentioned that it comes to the high cost to lived nature. So that is something which is again scrambled here. So this cannot be inferred. Right. Next passage. Very easy. The easiest of all passage. If you can stop the video and read it. Right. So here the overall topic is stories on undead. The first paragraph talks about stories of undead have always been with us. Early belief on the stories as vague but terrifying. So the first paragraph is very simple. It talks about that we always have believed in stories of undead. They have always been with us, but they were vague during our earliest years. They were vague, but they were terrifying at that time. Second paragraph talks about the belief evolved as mankind progressed. And now the story of undead, the undead had more definite shapes. Third paragraph, it talks about that undead, we have accorded undead some unnatural attributes, right? It talks about that in order to confirm their abnormal status, what we have done is we have given them some attributes which are not natural in order. We have given some shapes to them which are not natural in order, right? We call them, we believe that they drink human blood and the ability to influence human mind across a distance. So we have associated these attributes to them, which doesn't seem natural. Fourth paragraph talks about that it is natural that we associate undead with the practice of magic. It also talks about superstitious beliefs to certain extent. Fifth paragraph gives a basic summary that the theory of undead continue to grow. So a very simple passage. I don't think there is much to explain in this passage. Anyways, I have broken it down to each paragraph. Question number one, which one of the following statement best describe what the passage is about? The passage is about how the stories of undead and has evolved. The passage describes the failure of human beings to fully comprehend their environment. Definitely not the answer. Very, very broad. It is not about the environment. See, passage is about the content is about undead, and it is just mentioned in it is just missing in the first one. The writer describes the ways in which the undead come to be associated with shamans and the practice of magician. Yes, he has done that, but that is not the main purpose. This is true as per the passage. This is given in the fourth paragraph, but this is not not something for which the entire paragraph is written. So, not the answer. A narrow option. The writer discusses the transition from primitive thinking to the age of enlightenment. Good option, but once again, the content of undead is missing here. So this cannot be the answer. The passage discusses the evolution of the theories of undead from primitive thinking to the age of enlightenment. Look, Compare 3 and 4. 4 is more complete. It talks about the undead. So answer is option number 4. In order to confirm their abnormal status, many of the undead were often accorded attributes which defied the natural order of things. Which one of the following best expresses the claim made in this statement? First, according the undead and abnormal status is to reject the natural order of things. Some problem in this option, it seems. Human beings conceptualize the undead as possessing abnormal features. Okay. The natural attributes of undead are rendered abnormal by changing their status. This definitely is not the answer. We don't know whether the undead had any natural attributes. What is being talked about is that we believe that they are abnormal, and to just confirm to that belief that they are abnormal, we have given them unnatural attributes. Whether they have any natural attributes or not, that we don't know about. So 3 is not the answer. The undead are deified in nature's order by giving them divine attributes. Divine attributes is not talked about at all. So 4 cannot be the answer. Let us look at 1 and 2. According the undead and abnormal status is to reject the natural order of the things. It is not according to the undead. Humans have done that. So this cannot be the answer. Answer is 2. Human beings conceptualize the undead as possessing abnormal features. We have conceptualized them. All of the following statement, if false, could be seen as being in accordance with the passage. So once again, I have to make each of the following false and see which one after making it false is as per the passage. First, the relationship between shamans and the undead was believed to be a strong and stable one. Okay. If false and then accept also. Oh my God. So there are two things. I have to make it false and then I see which one after making it false is in accordance with the passage except. So basically, I have to find which of the following is true. As simple as that. So I will do that. I will find which one of the following is true. So this is false. This cannot be the answer, right? Because it is mentioned that the relationship is tenuous and an uncertain one. Okay, so this cannot be the answer. The transition from Middle Ages to the Age of Enlightenment saw new theories of undead. This is the answer. This is true. The undead remained vague and ill-defined even as mankind strove to understand the horror they inspired. This cannot be the answer because in the second paragraph it is given that they were given more definite shapes. The growing sophistication of mankind meant that humans stopped believing in the undead. We still believe in undead, so even this cannot be the answer. Which one of the following observation is a valid conclusion to draw from the statement? From out of the primal darkness of mankind's earliest year come whispers of airy creatures and quite alive yet not quite dead either. So we believed in some strange creatures and who were neither dead nor alive. What can we infer from that? Mankind's primal year were marked by creatures alive with airy whispers but seen only in the darkness. Is this mentioned that we were able to see in the darkness? No. Long ago, airy creatures used to whisper in the primal darkness that they were not quite dead. Again, they did not whisper. It is we who believed in such creatures who were neither alive nor dead. Answer is option number 3. Very easy. So this was a very easy passage with straight direct questions. All right. Last one. You can stop the video and read the fourth passage. All right. So here the overall topic is copy versus original, of course, of the art piece. The first paragraph talks about Chinese concept of copy fangzipin, which is imitation. It's simply imitation of the original. And fuzipin is the exact replica of the original. Chinese consider copies as good as original. By here, copies means the second one, not the imitation one. The exact replica is considered to be as good as original. That is what the first paragraph talks about. So, Fangzipin is the small models or copies that can be purchased in a museum shop. The second concept is exact reproduction of original, which for Chinese are of equal value to the original. And then it has been explained. Second para talks about Eastern notion of identity, example of I grant being rebuilt every 20 years. Third para talks about in the West, the Cathedral of Freiburg Minster in Southwest Germany. This is covered in scaffolding almost all year round, but they don't do it. In Japan, what they do is every 20 years they completely restore it. Not restore it, they completely build it from the scratch. And they consider it as good as the old one. In the West, that is not the concept. In the West, they do year-long work and they do it in bits and pieces, and they believe that they are not changing the original perhaps. That's what the third paragraph is all about. Fourth para, two operations are same. Fourth para says that the two operations are same, but somehow West doesn't believe in the idea of copies which the Chinese people or Japanese people believe in. So, but the two operations of the Grand Shrine and the Freiburg Minster in Germany, they are same as per the passage, as per the author. Now, this also talks about idea of unassailable original. The third paragraph, the fourth paragraph also talks about that in the field of art, the idea of unassailable means the original cannot be changed. It developed in the Western world. Then it talks about, but in 17th century there was a different thing. If some artwork was excavated, it was treated quite differently from today. During those days, they were not hesitant to intervene in a way which was faithful to original, right? There was massive intervention in these works during those days, but now it is changed. They don't do any restoration work nowadays. That is what the fourth para is all about. Fifth para is talks about why Asian supports cloning, and it talks about perhaps they believe in Buddhism, and Buddhism also talks about recycling. So they have lesser problems with cloning as compared to Europeans. That is what the fifth paragraph is all about. So not a very difficult passage. Basically, it talks about two concepts of fang zipping, which is the imitation of the original, and Fuzipin, which is the reproduction of the original, exact reproduction of the original, and it has equal value in the East, but somehow people in West consider it as not good, not original. And then the author has talked about the example of what Japanese do, and similar kind of activity even in West they do, but they don't believe that they are actually restoring the entire building. And an author says that both the activities are actually similar in nature. And on the last paragraph, author has talked about cloning. Which one of the following statement does not correctly express the similarity between this? Both were built as a place of worship. Yes. Both can be regarded as very old structure. Yes, mentioned. Both are continually undergoing restoration. They are continually undergoing restoration. Both will one day be completely rebuilt. All right. So what is being talked about is that Grandstein is rebuilt every 20 years, and Freiburg Minster, they also do complete year-round world, and damaged parts are removed. But at some point, it says that even every part will be removed and replaced with new. So even four is mentioned. Both are continually undergoing restoration. It's not restoration. Restoration means taking back to the or make restoring the original. That is how it is being used. So it is not restored. The Japanese one is built from the scratch. It is not restored. So this is something which is the right answer. So they are not similar in the sense of restoration. The value the modern West assigns to the unassailable original has resulted in all of the following except. So unassailable original means that the original cannot be changed. That the West assigns. So what has it resulted in? It allows regular employment with certain craftsmen. Now I know that many people would have marked this as the answer, but it has resulted in regular employment. If you read this, it talks about that it has been covered in scaffolding almost all year round, and all year round work is being done. So this definitely it has resulted in. It discourages them from making interventions in ancient art. Yes, this is what it has talked about. They don't want to make interventions. It discourages them from carrying human cloning. This is definitely not the result of unassailable original. Fourth, it discourages them from simultaneous display of multiple copies of painting. Yes, this is also what it has resulted in. Now, answer is option number three. It is not because of that they believe in unassailable original that they discourage human cloning. Now there are quite a few problems here. One is it discourages them from carrying human cloning. So what does it mean that they don't carry human cloning? It's not mentioned. What is being mentioned is that Eastern people have far less issues about cloning than Europeans. So we can't say that unassailable original discourages them from carrying out human cloning. That is not being mentioned. These three are direct result which is being mentioned. So answer is right. Option number three. I know that few people have marked one as the answer, but one is the result of unassailable original that few craftsmen get regular employment. Cloning is not because of that result, and we cannot say that it discourages them. It has been framed in wrong manner. It has certain influence, definitely we can say that, but it discourages them from carrying out human cloning means that they are not carrying out human cloning. So if I say that something is discouraged me, something is discouraging me, yeah, A is discouraging me to do B, it means that I am not doing B. That is not mentioned in the passage. Which one of the following scenarios is unlikely to follow from the arguments in the passage? Unlikely to follow. A 20th century Japanese Buddhist monk would value reconstructed shrine as the original. Yes, he will consider it. A 17th century British painter would have no problem adding personal touches when restoring an ancient Roman painting. Yes, that is mentioned. Back then, they were not restored in a way that was faithful to the original. Instead, there was massive intervention in these works. So he won't be having any problem. A 17th century French artist to adhere to Christian worldview would need to be completely true to the original intent of painting when restoring it. This is the answer. Unlikely to follow. Fourth, a 21st century Christian scientist likely to oppose cloning because of his philosophical orientation. Yeah, he is likely to oppose. Yeah, that we can say. Three is the right answer. This does not follow. Based on the passage, which one of the following copies would a Chinese museum be unlikely to consider as having value than original? Unlikely to consider as having less value than original. So it should be exact replica. If it is exact replica, they will consider it as good as original. So let us see. Pablo Picasso's painting of Vincent van Gogh original painting identical in every respect. If it is identical, then they will consider it as valuable. So one is a good choice, but let me look at the other options also. Pablo Picasso's painting of Vincent van Gogh's original painting bearing Picasso's signature. Signature doesn't matter. It should be identical. Miniaturized. If it is miniaturized, then they don't consider it as original. Miniaturized is the first one. Small models or copies. Right. So this can't be the answer. Pablo Picasso's photograph of Vincent van Gogh's original painting printed to exactly. This is printed to exactly the same scale. So one is a better choice than four, isn't it? It is identical in every respect. And we the passage talks about exact replica. So one is the right answer. Question number 17. Okay. It is on right. So parajumble. Fish skin collagen has excellent thermostability and tensile strength, making it ideal for use as bandage that adheres to the skin and adjusts to body movements. Okay. Looks like a good opening statement. Collagen, one of the main structural proteins in connective tissue in the human body, is well known for promoting skin generation. Okay, now two is a better opening. Fish skin swims in here as disease and bacteria that affect fish are different from most human pathogens. Swims in here. Okay, keyword. Four, the risk of introducing disease agents into other species through the use of pig and cow collagen proteins for wound healing has inhibited its broader application in the medical field. Now, 3 and 1 talks about fish skin, 2 and 4 doesn't talk about. 2 looks a good opening statement. Let us see. Collagen, one of the main structural protein in connective tissue in human body, is well known for promoting skin regeneration. So this is known to promote skin regeneration. Then the risk of introducing disease agents into other species through the use of pig and cow collagen proteins for wound healing has inhibited its broader application in medical field. So what it talks about is that it is known to promote skin regeneration, but then there is some problem. which it can cause. And that is why it is not used in medical field in a broader way. After 4, 3 will come. Why? Because 3 talks about fish skin swims in here. As disease and bacteria that affect fish are different from most human pathogens. Okay. So 4 talks about that why collagen is not used. The pig and cow collagen is not used. Right? 3 talks about that because there is problem with pig and cow collagen, fish skin swims in here. That means it comes handy here. And then 1 continues the idea which talks about that it has excellent thermostability. So 3 and 1, 4 will come before 3 and 2 is the opening statement. 2, 4, 3, 1. Right? So this is opening. It talks about the positive aspect. 4 talks about the negative aspect. 3 talks about how fish skin swims in, and fish skin helps to overcome this negative aspect. And 1 is carrying forward the idea of 3. Question number 18. All right. Summary. Petitioning is an expeditious democratic tradition used frequently in prior centuries by which citizens can bring issues directly to the government. As expressions of collective voice, they support procedural democracy by shaping agendas. They can also recruit citizens to causes, give voices to the voteless, and apply the disciplines of rhetorical arguments that clarifies a point of view. By contrast, elections are limited in several aspects. They involve only a few candidates, and thus fall short of a representative democracy. Further, voters' choice are not specific to particular policies or laws, and elections are episodic. Episodic means happens once in a while. Whereas the voice of the people needs to be heard and integrated constantly in democratic government. So, what the passage is about is petitioning versus elections. Author has talked about that petitioning is positive in nature. He has said, given several examples. The citizens bring issues directly to the government, right? They support procedural democracy by shaping agendas. It gives voice to the voteless. So all the positive things I'm talking about. By contrast, elections are limited. Then the negatives of elections are being talked about, right? Uh, and it says that the problem with election is that they happen once in a while, but people voice needs to be heard constantly. So first, citizens become less inclined to petitioning as it enables vocals less inclined. Completely opposite. I can rule it out here itself. Petitioning has, and look at the language. This needs to change to strengthen. Author is not prescribed. Look at the tone. There are two problems. This less inclined is opposite of what is mentioned. And look at the tone also. That this needs to engage. Sorry, this needs to change. This is not mentioned. Petitioning has been important to democratic function as it supplements the electoral process by enabling ongoing engagement with the government. Decent choice. There is nothing which I can say is preventing me to mark this. In the summary questions, it is necessary to eliminate the option. So I'm not able to eliminate 2 as such. It doesn't look a very good tempting but option, but I cannot say that it is not the right answer. There is nothing wrong in it also. Third, by giving citizens greater control over shaping political and democratic agendas, political petitions are invaluable as they represent an ideal form of representative democracy. Here is the problem. Nowhere he has talked about that it is ideal form. Rotten word. Can be ruled out. Petitioning is definitely more representative of the collective voice. Look at the tone. Definitely more. Again, extreme. 2 is the right option. It has been important to democratic functioning. He has time and again said that. They support procedural democracy by shaping agendas. Even towards the end, it says that in constantly in democratic government, petitioning is required. So better option is 2. Best option is 2, I should say. Now, this was a new type of question that came in the exam. So where will this statement fit? Easing the anxiety and pressure of having a big day is a part of the appeal for many couples who marry in secret. All right. Wedding season is upon us, and after 2 years of COVID chaos, that's on appeals scaled back, you may think the temptation would be to go all out. So it says that after 2 years of COVID chaos, you will believe that people will marry, will be tempted to go out when they marry. Go out means they go all out means that they will big fat wedding kind of thing. But instead of expanding the guest list, many couples are opting to have entirely secret ceremonies. But so here nothing will come. So this is what you will believe, and this is the exact opposite what is happening. And the sentence also talks about that they are marrying in secret. So nothing comes in one. So one cannot be the answer. With COVID case number remaining high and the cost of living crisis meaning that many couples are feeling the pinch, it is no wonder that some are less than eager to send out invites. Okay. So it says that COVID numbers are still high, and it is obvious that not many people are want to say to expand their guest list. Okay. Next, blank. Plus, it can't hurt that in celebrity circles, getting married in a secret is all the rage. Then three, I would definitely say that secret weddings are becoming more common, says Landis Bazaar. Now, in this particular question, I believe that answer should be three, but the cat says answer to be two. I don't agree with two. Now they may not change their answer. They will say two as the right answer. So two will remain as the right answer because ultimately cat is the authority. But I am not convinced with two being the right place. It should be three. And I will stick to it in my explanation. Why? What it talks about is easing the anxiety and pressure of having a big day is a part of the appeal for many couples who marry in secret. So this will come here. And Landis Bazaar's view is supporting this. That I would definitely say that secret weddings are becoming more common. So this view will be supported. This view is getting support all the way till this point. So option number three is the right place. What option number two? It doesn't. It is not required. See what it talks about before to what is being talked about is with COVID case numbers remaining high and cost of living crisis, meaning that many couples are feeling the pinch. It is no wonder that some are less than eager to send invites. So they are not eager to send invites. Plus, it can't hurt that in celebrity circles, getting married in secret is all the rage. So, so what it says is that they don't want to invite many people. Plus, in celebrity circle, if you marry in secret, so it is good. So two, if it talks about easing the anxiety for many couples, and then here it talks about celebrity circles. So I don't believe that it is the right place. Three, it talks about why many people believe in secret marriage, and that is being supported. So option three is right. It does two doesn't fit. I mean, in the blank two, this sentence doesn't fit for me. It was anyways not required there. Okay, so but yeah, cat has given two as the right answer, and they must be right. Question number 20. Okay. The creative element in product design has become of paramount importance as it is one of the few ways a firm or industry can sustain a competitive advantage over its rival. So the creative element in product design is important because this is way to have a sustainable competitive advantage. In fact, the creative element in the value of the world industry would be larger still. Okay. If we added the contribution of creative element in other industries such as design of tech accessories. Okay. The creative industry is receiving a lot of attention today as its growth rate is faster than that of the world economy as a whole. This is a good opening. So it is receiving a lot of attention. Fourth, it is for this reason that today's trade issues are increasingly involving intellectual property. It is for this reason. So there has to be a reason which explain that why trades are increasingly involving intellectual property. Intellectual property means they are saying that this is their property and nobody can use it. Why they could do so? What could be the reason? The reason is given in A. So 1 and 4 are there because they want to sustain a competitive advantage over its rival. And because they want to sustain a competitive advantage over the rival, it is the reason that is the reason that they want to sustain a competitive advantage, and they're using trade issues and they're using this intellectual property as one of the things to sustain the competitive advantage. Okay, so 1 and 4 are linked. Now look at three. Three is a good opening. And 2 talks about, in fact, the creative element in the world of value industry would be larger still. So something before this would be talking about that it is large. And then 2 talks about it will still be larger if we consider something else. So 3 talks about it is large, that its growth rate is faster than the world economy. So 3 and 2 will be linked together. So 3, 2, 1, 4 is the right sequence. Easy question. Right. It is not that modern historians of medieval Africa have been ignorant about context between Ethiopia and Europe. They had just had the power dynamics reversed. So it is saying that it is not that modern historians of medieval Africa that they are ignorant about context. They are not ignorant. Basically, it is trying to say that they are not ignorant of of medieval Africa. The modern historians are not ignorant of the fact that during the medieval period, Ethiopia and Europe had contact. They have just reversed the power dynamics. The traditional narrative is stressed in Ethiopia as weak and in trouble in the face of aggression from external forces. So Ethiopia military assistance sought military assistance from their fellow Christians to the north. But the real story, buried in the plain sight in the medieval diplomatic text, simply had not yet been put together by modern scholars. Recent research pushes scholars of medieval Europe to imagine a much more richly connected medieval world at the beginning of the so-called age of exploration. There is evidence that the king of Ethiopia were sponsoring their own missions of diplomacy, faith, and commerce. Right. So, what it talked about is that the modern historians have not they are not ignorant of this fact, but they have simply got the study wrong, or they've simply reversed the power dynamics. Okay. So they believe that Ethiopia was a weak nation, but in fact, if you read the medieval text, and the real story is buried in plain sight, means that they have ignored it. They have ignored it. And if you read what the medieval diplomatic text talks about, it talks about that it simply had not yet been put together. That modern scholars have not put together the text. It talks about that Ethiopia was sponsoring their own missions of diplomacy. They were not weak as such. Okay, so let us see. Medieval texts have documented how a strong connection between the Christian communities of Ethiopia and Europe were invaluable in establishing military and trade links between the two civilizations. Okay. Historians were under illusion that Ethiopia needed military protection from their neighbor, but in fact, the country had close commercial and religious connections with them. It's a very tempting option, right? So it looks a very, very tempting option. But the problem here is that historians were under the illusion. They were not under the illusions. It says that they were not ignorant, right? It is not that they were ignorant. They have simply buried in the plain sight. Means they have ignored it, but they were not ignorant. So this is not right. Medieval texts have been cherry-picked to promote a view of Ethiopia as weak and in need of Europe's military help with aggressive neighbor. But recent studies reveal it was a well-connected and outward-looking culture. Right answer. It completes everything. It has been cherry-picked to promote, means whatever they wanted, they have picked it. But recent study shows it's other way around. Fourth, medieval history sources selectively promoted the narrative that powerful European forces were called on to protect weak African civilizations such as Ethiopia, but this is far from reality. This is broad in nature. The passage only talks about Ethiopia, so we cannot say that it was for entire African civilization. So we let us not mark that. Let us look at one again. Medieval texts have documented how a strong connection between Christian communities of Ethiopia and Europe were invaluable in establishing. Yes, medieval text has done that. True, they have done that. But in option number one, what is missing is the role of historians, role of modern historians. That is missing. And that is one of the key thing that author is trying to say. So answer is option number three. Okay. All that we think we know about how life hangs together is really some kind of illusion that we have perpetrated on ourselves because of our limited vision. What appeared to be inanimate objects such as stones turned out not only to be alive in the same way that we are, but also in many infinitesimal ways to be affected by stimuli just as humans are. This distinction between animate and inanimate simply cannot be made when you enter the world of quantum mechanics and try to determine how those apparent subatomic particles of which you and everything else in the universe is composed are all tied together. The point is that physics and metaphysics show that there is pattern to the universe that goes beyond our capacity to grasp it with our brains. So basically, it talks about that we have limited vision, and all that we think about is that that life, whatever we know about life is the true version. But it says that the author says that even inanimate objects like stones turn out not only to be alive, but they also are affected by the stimuli just as humans are. And in the world of quantum mechanics, there is actually no difference between the two. So what's the answer? Quantum physics indicates that a schematic view of reality results in erroneous assumption about the universe. So quantum physics indicates that an astigmatic view of reality results in erroneous assumption about the universe. Good option. Can't say that it cannot be the answer. Let me look at the other options. The inanimate world is both sentient and cognizant like its animate counterpart. Now, the quantum physics should come. Quantum should come because it talks about that's the content of the passage. At the level of quantum, everything is same, or not, if not same, but they behave differently. The effect of stimuli is similar in inanimate objects when compared to animate objects or living beings. No, but 11. This is being mentioned, but once again, in both the option, see the quantum impact is missing. So when I choose the summary option, I look at the content in which of the option content is there. Plus, along with the content, in which of the option author's judgment is there. So 3 has the judgment part, but it doesn't have the content part. Fourth, arbitrary distinction between inanimate and animate object disappear at the scale at which quantum mechanics work. So 1 and 4 both looks a good option. Let us once again see. Definitely 4 is a balanced one. It talks about arbitrary distinction between inanimate and animate objects disappear at the scale at which quantum mechanics work. So at the level of quantum mechanics, things are same. Good choice. One, quantum physics indicates that an astigmatic view of reality results in erroneous assumption about the universe. So the problem here is that the word erroneous assumption, and it is not that quantum physics is indicating that the entire thing. What the passage talks about is that because of our limited vision, we are not able to see it. But when we go down to the level of quantum physics, the things are different, right? So a better choice is option number 4. It's a more balanced choice. Question number 23. This one was slightly more easier. Having made citizens more and less knowledgeable than their predecessors, the internet has proved to be both a blessing and a curse. So if you read this passage in its entirety, there are two places where this can come. One is 3 and one is 4. Right. Now 4, because 4 is the right answer, because it gives a better conclusion of everything. The preceding lines, if you see, it talks about the positive aspect, it talks about the negative aspect, right? And then it concludes, the given sentence concludes. So option 4 is the right place for this. So it has made more citizens more and less knowledgeable than their predecessors, right? In certain way it has made them more knowledgeable, in certain ways it has made them less knowledgeable. It has proved to be both blessing and disguise. So it's a good concluding statement. Option 4 is a right choice. Next one. Some company leaders are basing their decisions on locating offices to foster innovation and growth, as their best performing inventors suffered the greatest productivity losses when their commutes grew longer. Shorter commutes support innovation by giving employees more time in the office and greater opportunities for in-person collaboration while removing the physical strain of long commute. This is not always the case. Okay, this is the keyword. This is not always the case. Means something before it should be giving talking about an idea which contradicts what is being mentioned in 3. This is not always the case. Remote work does not automatically lead to greater creativity and productivity as office water cooler conversations are also very important for innovation. Some see the link between long commutes and productivity as support for work from home scenarios, as many workers have grown accustomed to their commute free arrangement during the pandemic. So 4 and 3 are linked. Why? Let's see. 4 talks about that some see the link between long commutes and productivity as support for work from home scenarios. So there is some link between long commute and productivity, right? And some people see this as a reason that they should work from home as they have been doing it during the pandemic. Now, 3 says that this is not always the case. What is not always the case? That workers have grown. What has been talked about in 4, right? That remote work. That they believe in working from home is better because it helps in a better productivity than long commute. So 3 is saying that there is a problem, but with that, remote work does not automatically lead to creativity because water cooler conversations in office are also as important. So 4 and 3 are definitely linked together. Now 4 talks about link between long commutes and productivity, right? So that is being talked about in 1. So 1 should come before 4 and 2 should open it. So 2 talks about shorter commutes, support innovation by giving employees more time in office and greater opportunities for in-person collaboration while removing the physical constraint of long commute. So advantage of short commute. Then it introduces the long commute. Then 1 talks about that some companies believe that long commute is hampering the innovation and productivity. And that's why 1 will follow the 2 and 4 and 3 will fall in place then. So that is it, guys, from my side. So we have discussed all the questions. So I hope that you have understood the solutions. Thank you very much.